Hello and welcome back to the PTZ Camera Operator Handbook. Today we're finally talking about PTZ camera operations. What can we do to become a great PTZ camera operator? What are the types of robotic camera controls that we can use to do so? And what are the variables such as pan, tilt, and zoom speeds, focus, and presets that will make our camera operations feel less robotic and more like a real camera operator is behind the controls of these awesome PTZ cameras. So I want to start by taking a peek at this presentation. And the presentation is going to go over chapter 10 if you're following along with this book. We've already talked about the state of the industry, what a PTZ camera is, the parts of a PTZ camera, who uses those cameras, the different types. We reviewed the IR remote control, PTZ camera control options, where to place PTZ cameras and how to mount them, how to get the best camera exposure from your camera, and now it's time to go over the operations. What does it mean to be a camera operator, and how can we make the most out of that? Now, to do so today, one of the things I'm going to do is I am going to be looking at this joystick controller right here. And this joystick controller can control up to 6 cameras. This camera 6 is actually be able to control the ceiling camera. And then I have another couple cameras in here that we'll take a look at as well. So one of the things we're going to take a look at, and I'm going to zoom really closely in on the pan, tilt, and zoom speeds here. So we can control the individual tilt speeds, pan speeds, zoom speeds, focus speeds, and preset speeds. These variables will change the way it feels to operate the joystick controller. So just to give a quick example here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the zoom speed all the way down. This is the slowest possible zoom. We'll zoom out and we'll zoom in. Now, I'm going to change that to the highest possible zoom speed. Okay. And we're going to zoom out quickly and zoom in quickly. Now, this camera is not too far away from the joystick, but you can see the difference. Now, zoom speed is one important variable. Tilt, pan, zoom, focus, and preset are pretty much all the ones that you're going to want to tune as a PTZ camera operator. These are all available here on the joystick controller. If you're using a smartphone app, these are all available here as well. And we're going to go over them and talk about why they're so important and when and where to use them for your camera operations. So the first camera operation is pan, and panning is left to right. Just so you know, you're controlling the camera. This is the most popular operation. You're going left and right, and you're following a play. You're following a sports game. You're following a presenter. You're going left to right. Tilting would be up and down. Now, before we go past panning, panning is obviously the most important, and it really comes in handy when you are moving left and right, and you can slowly ramp the speed left and right, up and down. So it's important to set the max pan speed to something that you are comfortable with. So as you're panning left and right, you can see there's all kinds of different speed settings. And for the PTZ Optics camera I'm using here, we can go all the way up to 24 on the pan speed. Now, you don't want the pan speed to be too fast, or you might actually lose your subject. Now, one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to use this smartphone app here. I'm going to take a look at the manual pan speed. Maybe it's about 6. And I'm going to take my 30x camera full screen here, and I'm going to control it. Now, I'm actually going to be following myself. Generally, you're going to be following, somebody else. But you can see here that the speed actually is working pretty good. And this is that slow kind of 6 speed. Now, if I'm going too fast and I'm almost getting out of the picture, we're going to want to change that speed higher. And let's take a peek at what that would look like. So here, this is the controller I'm using since it's wireless and it helps us get to where we need to go. I'm going to turn that pan speed up to the maximum. Now, we're also going to talk about pan and tilt limits, and those are very popular for making sure that your camera movements are smooth and work properly. But now, it's going a little too fast, as you can see. You see how fast that's going? It's too fast. Oh, it's just way too fast. There's no way I'm going to be able to track someone. I mean, there is variable PTZ speeds, which is also something to be to notice and understand. Is that, but it's just too fast. I gotta slow this down. It's not going to work for following a person. In fact, one of the things that I've found about most PTZ cameras is the top speeds are almost too fast to do the majority of video production, even sports, just too fast. So we're going to turn it down, and from a pan perspective, we're going to try to find the right speed. Now, another trick that you can learn is give yourself a little breathing room. Zoom out a little bit. That'll make it easier for you to follow your presenter because you're giving yourself space. Another thing I want to discuss, and we'll talk about this when we get to tilt, is that tilt sometimes is tricky and it goes off. You might not need as much tilt as is enabled. And that's why when we get to tilt over here, tilt is obviously the up and down movements, and it is a very great movement for revealing things. If you're in a close, tight shot with someone and you want to reveal what they're holding or where they're at, the tilt motion is really good. PTZ cameras can be placed in a lot of different areas, and if it's up really high, you can tilt all the way up and down different spaces. So tilt is great, but as you noticed potentially in what I was doing, I didn't need tilt at all. In fact, the tilt was kind of messing me up. And so I'm going up a little bit, I'm going down a little bit. That's not helpful for the viewers a lot of times. We just need to go left and right now. So what you can do is you can actually turn the tilt down to 0. And what I'm going to show you here is we can just turn the tilt all the way down, or using the smartphone app, we can actually use this little button here that enables the tilt lock. And now when I'm doing my PTZ controls, I can't go up and down. I can't mess this up, right? I am going left and right, and I cannot go up and down. Now, I still think my speed's a little too fast. And so when we're doing speeds, we are looking at the max speed. So I still have the ability to go slow and then faster with a joystick or a smartphone, but that's the maximum speed. So even my maximum speed right now, I feel like is a little too high. So now if I slow it down and I go to my maximum speed, now I'm feeling pretty good and things are looking pretty good. So that is a little bit about manual pan and tilt speeds. As far as zoom is concerned, we have the optical zoom and the digital zoom. Now, the optical zoom is what you can control the speed of on your PTZ camera. Digital zoom, sometimes in electronic pan tilt zoom cameras, you can control some of the variables, but in general, with a PTZ camera, we're talking about optical zoom. It's a zoom speed of actually operating the lens inside the camera. Now, we also have the ability to change the speed at which the focus comes up and down, and then the speed between presets. And that is something I want to take a quick look at now. So let's go to the ceiling camera here, operating this camera. And the first thing I'm going to do is set a PTZ preset so we all understand what that is. So we're going to hit the set button, we're going to set preset 1, and we're going to hit enter. Now this pan tilt zoom space has been saved. And just to make it easy, we're going to zoom out. Now my tilt speed, I turned very low, as you remember. So I'm going to turn that speed up a little bit so we can move a little faster here. There we go. Let's go up a little more. There we go. And let's just look at the studio here, and we'll hit set 2, enter. Now when I call preset 1, by clicking the 1 button, we're going to go right back to that position. When I hit preset 2, we're going back to the main position. Now, you may have noticed that movement, it's kind of fast, which is fine if it's off camera, but if you're on camera, you may be thinking, that's a pretty fast movement for somebody to watch on camera. So let's go ahead and slow that movement down. If you're going to do camera movements that are on camera, you generally want to do it nice and slow. So if we take a peek at the ceiling camera again, and what we do is turn the preset speed down. to as slow as it goes and then call that preset, it's going to be a little bit slower. That didn't seem a lot slower. Let's turn the other speeds down as well when we issue this PTZ command. There we go. So when you're doing PTZ controls, you want to be able to change the speed of the preset and you want to be able to slow it down because it helps those movements look a little bit less robotic. Now, when we're talking about manual control versus preset controls, the preset controls are automated and they're great for those folks who are just getting started with PTZ cameras or people who are trying to do multitask, right? If you're trying to get 3 or 4 cameras in different positions in a specific time, the PTZ presets are for you. The manual joystick controls allow you to fine-tune these settings. And if you've just got one PTZ camera, you might do mainly like 80-20, right? 80% manual joystick, 20% automated presets just to save yourself some time. The automated presets are going to be talked about more in an upcoming chapter where we can automate camera controls. And you could actually have a single button on a joystick, like the PTZ Optics SuperJoy, for example. If we use one super preset button, we can actually have 4 cameras move to the same place. And that's using a command where it would say 4 cameras go to 4 preset 1s, 4 cameras go to 4 preset 2s. And if you think about that, that allows us to do a scene change very quickly. If you're doing a play or you're doing a sports production and the game has changed and the opposing team has the ball or the opposing team is switching sides, we can go ahead and change all the cameras with a single button click. And that is a really powerful way to use scenes. But again, manual control for making those changes on the fly with the joystick, giving you the creative control that you can use to control when you're creating a scene or following a subject. The joystick's great for that. Presets, these presets right here, again, really good if you've got lack of experience, right? Not all PTZ camera operators have been trained in precision camera movements. A lot of people have to work with volunteers, and there's a lot of common camera movements that, if we have to move a camera quickly, these buttons will help us do so. So next question is, how do we decide which camera control to use? We look at the IR remote control. We looked at the joystick controller. We've looked at the smartphone controller. We looked briefly at the PTZ camera control software. There's obviously cost differences here, and there's control differences. So the IR remote is great for getting started, right? If you're on a super low budget and you're just getting started, that IR remote can actually control multiple cameras, and it can be used. We also briefly talked about software control. You can control these cameras with the video production software that you're possibly using. In general, joysticks are going to give you the most dedicated control. They're not going to take up space on your phone or your screen, and it's just going to work every time. Whereas like the IR remote, it might work really good indoors, but it's not going to work well outdoors, for example. A smartphone works pretty well if you have good Wi-Fi. So there's a lot of great options, but just in general, there's a huge difference between a joystick controller and a IR remote. So pan controls are great for a variety of control solutions, and we can control these at different speeds. So that's your main thing, setting these cameras up, figuring out the speeds that you want to use them at. What works for your scenario? PTZ cameras can obviously be controlled manually or automatically, and finding that variety of control that works for you, works for your team is important. And a quick tip that I would give you is to have a short list next to the joystick, next to the operator system. What does preset 1 equal? Is preset 1 the podium? Is preset 1 the stage? Is it a wide stage? Is it a tight shot? Write those down, get familiar with those, and they will help you. PTZ presets are an easy way to get to a known location quickly, and you can adjust the speed at which the camera moves to those presets to make it smoother. And then, of course, manual PTZ controls give you that granular level control that is really going to give you kind of a best case scenario for camera controls. So we'll go on to our next chapter, talking about what it means to be a camera operator, what it means to be a great camera operator, and then some best practices for some of the top use cases for PTZ cameras coming up in our next video. So I'll see you guys in a moment.